Yes, you know what? I will note all these questions and I will ask them later on.
It's gonna have a Canadian flair for sure.
All right. Sports. Talk. Live.
Do you guys even know where Vancouver Island is? It's not even close to Toronto. Okay, let's get things going.
Hello and welcome to the Joshua Griffith Home Studio. It is my living room. So today is the 10th episode of the Unnamed Sports Show here on the Sports Talk Line Network. That's right, I'm already at the big number 10 of many more to come. So today I will be joined by Justin Dunk of 3 Down Nation, and we are going to be talking CFL, of course, get everybody caught up in the latest CFL news. Are we going to have hub cities? Is the CFL even going to come back this year? So we'll ask Justin a lot of things like that, and we'll get into that more later. But we do have a lot of sports that have already kicked off, so let's get into things. The MLS is back. It actually happened despite FC Dallas dropping out of the tournament on Monday and Nashville being announced that Thursday morning that they were out of the tournament as well. We had the first men's North American major sports back. And that's right. I said major North American sports. At me all you want. It's a major sport. Okay. Orlando City SC and Inter Miami kicked things off on Wednesday night in what people were calling the, oh my God, please don't let them play derby. But guess what? They played. It's a little bit of a terrible match to start things off, but picked up in the second, and Inter Miami was able to score a goal of some nice play in the box with some passing, and Juan Agudelo was on the finishing end of that one to give them an early 1-0 lead. They Inter Miami looked to be taking things kind of to Orlando City until there was a scary stoppage in play when Andre Reyes was caught kind of by a Don Dwyer arm or elbow, call it what you want to call it. He wasn't red carded or anything for it, and was down for several minutes. He was having a really hard time breathing. The stretcher was brought on for him. Like I said, it was a pretty scary situation. After that, Orlando City came out the much more aggressive team, looked much more focused as well. Chris Mueller was able to tie it up at 1 after a nice nanny cross, and it looked like Inter Miami was going to squeak out their first Major League Soccer points in the club's history until a 90 or a 7th minute stoppage time goal late by Nanny to give Orlando City the full 3 points there. Again, there was another game this morning, 6 a.m., came very early on the West Coast. Was between Philadelphia Union and New York City FC. So I got up, it was to pee, and then I went back to bed. I watched it on my PVR actually when I woke up at 8:30 on the Pacific time on the West Coast here. So it was a very similar feel to the first game on Wednesday night, with the team kind of trying to feel each other out and get back to competitive play, because you got to remember it is for season standings and points and stuff, as well as the overall tournament. The Philly Union came out in the second half, and they probably should have had a couple more cracks on net when they were working the ball around really well there. But it ended up being in the 63rd minute when Alejandro Bedoya, the captain for the team, kind of deflected it past Sean Johnson, keeper for New York CFC. And that was pretty much it for the scoring. It was just 1-0. So they also took 3 points in Group A. So I mentioned a couple minutes ago that Nashville SC withdrew from the tournament. They had 9 positive cases. This was first reported by Sam Stejskal from The Athletic Soccer and confirmed by MLS shortly after. So you might be asking, what does this mean for the tournament? Well, now we do have 24 teams remaining, so we can deal equally with 4 teams in a group. The Chicago Fire, they're going to move into Group B with Vancouver, San Jose, Earthquake, and the Sounders. It also kind of switches things around in regards to schedule for the Vancouver Whitecaps. We're still going to be starting the tournament on the 15th against San Jose, but then they're going to play the Sounders on July 19th. These two games will be 10:30 Eastern time, so 7:30 for us here on the West Coast, so that won't be too bad. But then they were going to finish off the group stage on July 23rd with a 9 a.m. game against the Chicago Fire. It's going to be really interesting to see how Vancouver Whitecaps come out of this. They're going to be missing 5 pretty key players that they announced their roster, the only MLS team to actually do so. I mean, now we're seeing the rosters as the games start, but Lucas Cavallini to St. Ricketts, Andy Rose, Freddie Montera, and Georges Mukimbula will not be joining the team. They didn't make the trip down to Orlando City. So for a varying amount of reasons, there was some talk that some of the players might have felt pressure to go down by the team or the club. From everyone that I've talked to, and we heard from and actually from Maxime Crepeau today and availability from the Whitecaps, that no, there was no pressure and everybody seemed pretty excited to go down. So I would expect to see some pretty breakout performances with a lot of big key names out. So maybe look for somebody like Theo Bair or Ryan Raposo to make their mark in this tournament. Like I said, the Whitecaps had media availability earlier on today with Axel Schuster, CEO and sporting director, and Maxime Crepeau. So we're going to bring you a little bit of that content a little bit later on in the show. So another league in North America that got started up, or looks like it's going to get started up, they have the dates announced and everything, is the National Hockey League. And there's a lot of news coming out of the AHL this week. We got the return to play plan all set forth. Looks like a new collective bargaining agreement that would run until 2025, 2026 is all in place. It would include the 2 Winter Olympics during that time. It still has to be ratified, obviously, by the players and owners, but I'm hearing really positive things coming out that there shouldn't be any issues on both sides there. So some of the key dates moving forward are going to be July 13th when teams officially open up training camp. A lot of teams already are on the ice training, but that will be the official date. July 26th is going to mark when teams will travel to Edmonton and Toronto, the respective hub cities, and start their bubbles. And the puck drops for qualifying or play-in round or hockey. Hockey starts August 1st. So the NHL has also kind of given us a tentative date for a little bit more things down the line, too. So like I said, we have a Stanley Cup final should go between September 20th and October 2nd. A draft should happen just after on October 6th. Looking ahead to next year, the league plans to get back to playing on December 1st for the 2020-2021 season. It's going to be a quick turnaround, but they need to get these things kind of on paper right now, and then they can work around issues that might arise down the line. So now, of course, my show would not be complete without the latest Canucks news. And there always seems to be so much Canucks news without nothing really happening. This time, the Canucks actually did have some news as they released their team awards, which are all, as I'm sure people know, voted on by the fans. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I voted Louis Eriksson for every single award. So I was a little disappointed when he didn't come away with any hardware this year. Quinn Hughes was given the Walter Pratt Trophy as best defenseman. Surprise, surprise. The Pavel Bure most exciting player went to Elias Pettersson. Again, we're not really surprised there. A new award this year, the first ever recipient was Alex Edler of the Daniel and Henrik Sedin Award for Community Leadership for all the great things that he's done in the Vancouver community. So shout out to Alex Edler. That's a really exciting award. I'm glad that they put that one in there. JT Miller comically won both the leading scorer and unsung hero award. It's fan voted, remember? And I said I voted for Louis Eriksson. So stranger things have happened. Jacob Markstrom was voted most valuable player. So yes, I know there's definitely a Jacob Markstrom versus Elias Pettersson sides for who wanted MVP for the team. So he was also given the Cyclone, or that's the Cyclone Taylor Trophy, and he was also given the 3-star award as well for being named the player with the most 3 stars. The Minnesota Wild have actually won the Unnamed Sports Show Award for biggest troll job on the Vancouver Canucks Thursday morning when they hired Judd Brackett as their new director of amateur scouting. Well played, Wild. Well played. So speaking of well played, Patrick Mahomes. Wow. $500 million over 10 years. Like, that's insane money. He's a Super Bowl champion, MVP of the Super Bowl. Like, this surpasses the $426 million over 12 years that Mike Trout's being paid right now. You just got to think that Dak Prescott and Deshaun Watson are salivating at the thought of the contracts they're going to be getting. And Jerry Jones is just kicking himself for not getting a deal done with Dak sooner. So there's your Dallas Cowboys talk for this week. Jerry Jones screwed up again. So really funny little bit of a story on the Patrick Mahomes deal, if people don't know. It was reported by Adam Schefter of ESPN, but just before Adam Schefter, actually, a huge Chiefs fan who works at a liquor store happened to have the perfect customer walk in and buy 6 bottles of Dom Perignon. So that was good. So I'm actually gonna speed things up. I'm gonna switch on over here because now I'm being joined by my first guest, and he's just tuning here. So this is being joined by Justin Dunk of 3 Down Nation. So his audio is just clicking in here, as you guys can probably see. There we go. Hi, Justin. Thanks for joining me.
You bet, man. Good to be on.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you right now, you have more than 5 minutes, and I'm not going to be throwing any fireballs at you like Arash and Danny did yesterday.
Hey, I'd be cool with that too. You got to handle it when you step into the batter's box, right?
There you go. Yeah. So just want to ask how you doing during these times. You mean you staying healthy and safe the last 3 or 4 months?
I appreciate you asking. Yeah, man. Thankfully, I've been safe and healthy, and all those around me are as well. So hopefully that continues. What about you?
Yes, I'm doing good. I went back to work at a grocery store during this time. So that's good, but I've been staying safe and healthy, and everybody around me too has been lucky enough. We've been pretty good over here on Vancouver Island with the numbers, and especially on BC with our superhero Dr. Bonnie Henry. So
taking care of everybody.
Yes. So I kind of just wanted to jump right into some Canadian Football League, news with you, because what we have for news. Like I said, I'm on Vancouver Island, so grew up a big BC Lions fan. Justin, am I going to get to see them play this year?
Dude, I wish I had a concrete answer for you. But as you know, with all the other sports leagues, it's just so uncertain with the virus. However, I do think there recently has been some optimism because, and you mentioned the numbers there in BC and how they are really essentially leveled off. In the Western provinces, it almost doesn't exist, I was going to say, except for Alberta. And in the East, it seems to be leveling off, especially in Ontario and Montreal. So I really kind of think here over the last little while that there's a renewed sense that, hey, we might actually be able to see some Canadian Football League games in 2020.
Yeah, and I've been having to neglect the Canadian Football League because there hasn't been any real news on it or anything, or even, rumblings or excitement or anything. Like, what do you think the biggest difficulties are going to be? Because, kind of hearing hub cities might be a thing going forward.
To me, it's going to start and not necessarily end, but a major factor is going to be the collective bargaining agreement, because the league is trying to use the coronavirus crisis as a leverage point to lengthen the CBA. Meanwhile, the players are on the other side saying, we have enough on our plate just trying to figure out a way to get on the field in a healthy and safe manner in 2020. So if they can come to some sort of agreement on a COVID CBA, I've been calling it, and get on the field, I think that's the biggest stumbling block, for lack of a better term, that if we can get that far, then I do think with, as you said, and you've seen it out in BC and Vancouver, the way that Canada has handled the virus has been really safe. The key after that, though, will be how are they going to deal with the Americans coming across the border, and what sort of quarantine period is going to be imposed? Because I think it's going to be more about not wanting the athletes to infect people in the public than it sometimes might be the other way around when you look at the situation in the United States.
One of the things I think that the CFL is going to be able to take, at least from waiting a little bit, is blueprints from other league, like say the Major League Baseball, and looking at what the Toronto Blue Jays are doing, bringing players back from Tampa Bay and being able to, start up training camp right away, just with all the players quarantining together as a family type thing, and getting the restrictions kind of, I guess, eased from the federal and provincial governments on that.
Exactly. I think that would be a model that potentially the CFL would look at. The tricky part for that is a lot of the players from the States like to drive up, and obviously it's a cheaper way of transportation as well. And then it gives them a vehicle to get around. So if we're talking about going into a hub city, I think some of those logistics would have to be taken care of, because the Jays, it was a little easier in the sense that all those guys were on one plane. You bus them to the hotel that's attached to the Rogers Center, and they can be in their own little bubble, as you said, protected from the outside community. So I think the CFL could certainly look at that model and say, all right, if we can get our guys sort of in a contained way over the border to our potential bubble city or bubble cities, then I think that would be a very safe way to try to do it.
That's really going to be another major hurdle, right, too, of just all the players coming from so many different areas down in the States, and with some places being highly, populated with a lot of people with COVID, and some places being a little bit better off in the States. But yeah, too, and that kind of actually brings me to my next question about just the CFL being such a gate-driven league, and they have their TV deal in place, obviously, with TSN. You mentioned Wednesday on Tim and Sid that it's going to cost probably between $2 to $3 million per team in a hub city style proposal, if that's what they want to do at the beginning. What do you think the league's going to need to try and do to offset some of these costs, and also cover, the cost of the players moving forward?
And that's the one that I think they're going to try to get covered by the government, the player costs, or the player salaries, I should say. They're going to propose a scenario where they tell the government that the CFL is just like any other business in Canada, that it's been directly impacted by COVID-19 and not in any other factor. So a lot of those businesses have their employees on the CERB program or some sort of a government program, so they're still drawing an income, even if they're not working, right? It's pretty commonplace now. So that's where they're going to make the argument for the CFL players, because they're not drawing on any of those Canadian government programs yet. So I think if they can get past the CBA and then agree on the safety protocols to get back on the field, then ideally they would both go to the government, the league, and the players with that proposal. And I think there would be a better chance of them actually getting that money to cover the players' salaries, because a lot of it's going to be dumped right back into the Canadian economy anyways. And I think it could be seen as a sort of generator for the economy to get going as we sort of progress through it here.
Absolutely. Do you think that the fact that there's two publicly owned teams in the league as well would help that proposal?
I think it definitely could, right? And those teams, they do want to get on the field, but as you said, there's those public teams. And then there's also the factor of you have these stadiums across the country that different levels of government have put money into. So you don't necessarily want those to be empty for all year. Now, if it's in a hub city model, obviously that's only using maybe one, or if it's a couple hub cities, two stadiums. But if you can get back to the point, and there's some CFL people that think this, that the virus continues to level off, maybe you start in a hub city model, but by the end of the season, you're having some fans in there socially distanced.
That's really what the league's going to need. I mean, they need fans. I mean, we both know that. So they're obviously working, I would imagine, pretty hard behind the scenes to try and, because I've seen every league looks to be, looking 4 or 5 months or even longer down the line. So I would imagine that's something that they're really trying to focus on and get in place moving forward.
It is. The Ticats, I know for certain, and their CEO, Scott Mitchell, has looked into it at Tim Hortons Field. They feel like they could get 4,000 fans in there and be doing all the safety protocols. I believe BC Place was somewhere in that number as well, 5,000. So if you look at the stadium sort of across the country, the amount of people in them is sort of roughly the same. Mosaic Stadium in Saskatchewan, I think, is over 30,000. So you might be able to get a few more people in there. It might be the actual biggest stadium outside of Commonwealth in the league. I shouldn't say Calgary Stadium. McMahon is pretty big as well. So I think that's sort of the ballpark you're looking at. But if you can get that many people in there, then it's just extra money the league can potentially be bringing in and not have to be in a bigger hole going into 2021.
I know David really has, he's on TSN 1040 all the time over here. Rick Dollywall's got him on and talking. So he's, he's mentioned it because I think BC Place has got, if they do the Upper Dome, I think it's about 54,000 full capacity there. So he was pretty adamant that they're going to need fans or we might not have CFL in the future.
Yeah, and there are some people that will tell you that as good as David Braley has been for the league in terms of owning multiple teams and obviously now the Lions for over 2 decades, that in actuality he's maybe not as close to the CFL's COVID-19 decision-making process and situation as some people might think he would be. He's getting a lot of his info from what I'm told from the president, Rick LeLacheur. So when he makes statements like that, to me, it's more of a power play in saying, hey, if we're going to be on the field as an owner and a private one that doesn't want to lose money, I want to be playing with fans in the stands if it's safe and all the protocols could be met. So that's the way that I take it, that he's making a statement as one of the 9, main stakeholders in the league from an owner's perspective that's saying, if we're going to play, I want to do everything we can to look at having fans in the stands.
Well, and I think he had been actively shopping the team around before all of this started. So that that makes sense. That a lot of it's in every league. You can just follow the money line. I love it. So how do you think, sorry, I'm speaking with Justin Dunk of 3 Down Nation here on the Unnamed Sports Show. How do you think that this is going to affect sports at a collegiate and even a high school level here in Canada?
Well, the virus overall, you mean?
Yeah, just in general, and then the trickle down effect as well. I'm interested in what your take on that is, because obviously, I played some high school football there, and then went on to play with the Vancouver Raiders in the Canadian Junior Football League. But so many filter leagues with U Sports, formerly CIS. I always almost screwed up, so I like to shout out to CIS Sport. But so there's all that the filters that are coming in. So we're kind of seeing a little bit of things, about sports, but how do you think the trickle down effect is going to come for those things?
To me, we're already seeing it in U Sports in the sense that, we've had 2 players go to a big time Southeastern Conference school in the SEC, Ole Miss, one from the University of Guelph and Tavius Robinson, and the other from the University of Calgary in Dean Leonard. They had multiple offers to choose from, and Louisiana State University, the defending NCAA national champions, was in on both. They wanted both guys. Ed Orgeron, go Tigers, was talking to Robinson, trying to get him to flip his commitment. So to me, what you're getting at in terms of the trickle-down effect is we're going to lose some of those high-caliber athletes, and already have, to the NCAA because they're seemingly doing all they can to get on the field. And then also, we're likely going to lose, essentially a year of football across Canada. And there's already some ramifications of that coming out in terms of what that might mean for the future, right? We saw Stanford, a major university in the United States who has a big budget, cut 11 of their varsity teams. So to me, when you look at that and what COVID-19 has done at Stanford, to me, I start thinking, well, what is the implications going to be in Canada? And I think we haven't really even broached it. Yes, the U Sports football season has been canceled. The RSEQ in Quebec, they're going to still try to play, although it seems, doubtful that they're going to be doing so. They're trying to wait it out. But I just think overall, you even mentioned the junior football leagues, they're going to try to give it a go as well. And I definitely think it can be done in a certain way, and especially the provinces that are pretty low. But I mean, overall, I just think that trickle-down effect, and even you get into the high school level, is they might just not have the money to get on the field because of all the testing protocols that you're going to have to follow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, and that would be a shame too, because I mean, like I said, Vancouver Island here, so I go down and watch the John Barsby Bulldogs and the Raiders when I can get out to them. So, you're kind of seeing that as well in the AHL. With a lot of players deciding to go on and play in the KHL or even Europe right now. So I wouldn't be surprised, to see more of it here, unfortunately. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the Edmonton Eskimos and the corporate pressure that they're facing right now to have a name change. What do you kind of make of the movement you're seeing with NFL teams, Major League Baseball teams, and now we have CFL teams kind of getting involved in this.
That's right. And you've seen the Cleveland Indians, they took out the Chief Wahoo logo out of their paraphernalia. I believe it's just a year or two ago, fairly recent. And now they're looking at, potentially even changing the Indians name, and what's going on, obviously, with the Washington Football Club, we'll call them right now, and Nike and FedEx making a power play there. It seems like it's almost inevitable that the Redskins are going to change that name or move on from it, I should say. And to me, it's a real easy decision with Edmonton. Just change the name. They've already filed for the trademark Edmonton Empire. It keeps the exact same logo intact, right? You wouldn't even have to change your colors or anything. Yeah, exactly. And you might have to switch some of your paraphernalia in the wording, obviously, but I think it's a chance to really show that you are listening to the right people, right? The Nunavut MP has come out and been vocal about it, that the term Eskimo is derogatory. And I really think, the more I try to learn and read about it, that the only people that can decide this are Inuit and Inuk, because they're the only ones that have an understanding of what the term means and if it's derogatory to them. It's just like with the Black Lives Matter movement, that they've had enough of not getting the proper respect in society, and they're speaking out about it. And there's terms that we don't associate with them anymore. And I think it's very similar to the Edmonton situation, that term is seen as derogatory to a number of people. And just because the Eskimos feel there's, quote, no consensus on it, doesn't mean that you can keep the name, because there are a lot of people that are against it. Even if it's 50-50, that's still 50% of the people that are against it. So to me, it's simple. You already registered for the trademark, whether or not it's Empire or something else, move on from the name. And then you don't have to worry in the future about continually coming under fire.
It would make a lot of sense. And like you said, I mean, they've already got it's already the EE. They already have the Empire for the trademark. So just get on, be progressive about it. Don't wait for another team to do it first. Just go on and be like, hey, this is what the Edmonton Eskimos or the Edmonton Empire are doing now. This is our direction. We're already seeing it. A local team here, in Saanich actually changed their name from, I believe, the Braves. They're looking for a new team name. Just they're like, well, we know Braves isn't up in the air, but if for us, no, that's just, we don't need to be. We can be called something else. We can be called the Bears or the Dogs or the anything. Take your pick. Right. So
smart.
Yeah. So, kind of been asking people who have been on here, because everybody's had a fair bit of, isolated time, it seems. Have you been able to pick up or learn any special talents or hobbies? I've been very unsuccessful in my attempts to learn Portuguese so far.
That's actually a good question. I mean, I'm a guy that likes to stay in shape, so I've sort of found other ways to do that. And fortunately enough, most of the time I've been staying actually where I am right now, and my girlfriend's place down in downtown Toronto. So we've done a lot of running and then sort of, indoor workouts, and just figured out another way to do it. And I feel like, you're so used to going to the gym that in reality, you can do a lot of body weight stuff and really do it in your own home. So I'm trying to think if I've taken on some other new projects. I maybe try to sprinkled in a little bit of Chinese, because my girlfriend is from there, so she's taught me a little bit of the language. Don't get me to say a sentence or anything like that, but I've been asking her a little bit about it. And then she's just started actually too during the pandemic to study holistic nutrition. So she's sort of enlightened me on some of those different types of things. I like to try to eat healthy, so that's been continued with her knowledge. So I guess those are some of the things I've been doing while isolated. Also, obviously, track football too.
Yes, got to keep. I mean, it's surprising how everything got canceled, but it didn't seem to slow down that much in regards to movement. And then, like, everything. I was talking to somebody the other day, another writer, and I said, I was like, oh, I finally wrote something for the first time in like a month. And he's like, oh, that. I was like, that I didn't have to delete halfway through and then restart again. And like, I was able to actually just get it all done because the news didn't change.
Yeah, it's hourly, daily. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So, Justin, thank you very much for joining me from 3 Down Nation. bringing us tons of CFL news. You know, I saw you coming out with some stuff today, actually. So, you know, what are you working on right now? Where can people find you and get caught up with all your stuff?
You bet, man. So on Twitter, it's at jdunk12, and then Instagram's at jdunk_12. Didn't quite get the same name there, but the underscore on Instagram. And then, as you mentioned, the site, 3downnation.com. We're always working, keeping up to date with the latest news. And actually, I think the coolest thing on the site right now is one of our writers who's actually a student at the University of British Columbia and is based there right now, JC Abbott, has a series that he's been rolling out here, the top 10 CFL feuds of all time. And you mentioned, you know, what have people been doing during the COVID pandemic? Well, he's been studying, literally going back in newspapers and searching the history of the league and coming up with the top 10 feuds. So, I mean, there's some
That's
juicy
cool.
ones that didn't even make the cut. So we're rolling those out on the site right now. I mean, some of the stuff we've been planning also is our draft rankings for 2021. I mean, we'll see if a lot of these players even end up hitting the field, but we have our top 25 kind of nearly ready to go in terms of the scouting department over here at 3 Down Nation. So still lots of content rolling out.
Awesome. Excited to check all that out. And thanks again for taking the time to join me here.
You bet, man. Stay safe out there, and hopefully we catch up down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to have you on again anytime. Thank you again.
You bet, buddy. Be well.
All right. So that was Justin Dunk from 3 Down Nation just joining me. So I wanted to thank him again for joining me. Really excited that we could talk some CFL. Hopefully we have it coming up here because it's summer in Canada, and normally we have CFL right now in Canada. So I'd like to get to it. I'd like to have some. Thank you. Oh yeah, get back into football down south of the border. Like how if you notice in the YouTube thing, they wrote Canadian Football League. Come on, guys. If you don't know what the CFL is, just get into it. So I was talking about before I was joined by my guest, Justin, which not a problem at all because, like I said, I'm so happy. Some of these guys are so busy. They squeeze me in. They're like, yes, I have this much time between here and here. And if you can fit it in, I'm okay. Throw it at me. Come on in. So I'll get back in what I was talking about with the NFL. I was mentioning the story about Patrick Mahomes and his deal getting dropped, kind of with Adam Schefter reporting it. And I mentioned that there was a liquor store employee who happened to be in perfect timing. Big guy guy executive, dressed all fancy like me, walked in. He probably was dressed a lot fancier than me. We're not going to lie. Walked in, bought 6 bottles of Dom Perignon, and just, kind of mentioned something about the Kansas City Chiefs. Big signing today, and I guess the young lady is a big Chiefs fan, so she was able to kind of put 2 and 2 together and drop the news on Twitter before Schefter. So beat him to it. I reached out to her, and of course the Kansas City Chiefs and her employer would rather her not do any more media, as I can imagine she's just been so bombarded. Like, I mean, if I'm getting in touch with her to do media because I think the story is so great, I can't imagine the other media outlets that are all over that. So chatted a bit off record. It was really nice to hear she's a super big Chiefs fan. So that was really cool. Some more news from the NFL. Cam Newton and the Patriots. I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but it's now official. He's done his physical with the team, and they've actually signed the deal. The Washington football team, me and Justin Dunk kind of mentioned a little bit. They're going to be, changing their name, their ridiculous name and logo. Another team that we talked about that we'll be doing is the Cleveland baseball team. So the Cleveland Indians obviously are looking to change their name. About time. There's no reason they need to have the Cleveland Indians as their name, so I don't understand that one. Kind of brings me into Major League Baseball. They are going to try and play their 60-game schedule, so looks like things are a go for Major League Baseball. The teams are back training at their facilities. Toronto Blue Jays are back training. It looks like the only issues that Major League Baseball is kind of running into is just kind of lack of urgency, I guess, on their testing. And they're not getting them back in a timely fashion. But it looks like for the amount of testing that they have done, as reported by Marley Rivera from ESPN, reported on Wednesday, they tested 5,851 players and staff, and 76 positive tests came back. 66 of them were players. So I've talked about it before, and I'm going to bring it up again, and that's that positive percent rated. So 1.2% for that. And I haven't really seen the detailed plan of what Major League Baseball wants to do. Like, hey, speculating on it, just be flying in from the hotels, buses, stadium, that's it. But it looks like that baseball is going to actually be coming back too. And that would be pretty exciting if that happened, because 3-4 weeks ago, I was running pictures of dumpster fires when I was talking about Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred. So looks like they got everything fixed for now, and we could be seeing some baseball. Going to move along to the UFC 251, as we have a big weekend out of Fight Island in Abu Dhabi, which is kind of an island. It's called Yas Island, but it's not a real island. It's kind of like, it's got like, okay. Oh yeah, the fights. Sorry, it's going to be a great fight between Kamaru and Usman, or Kamaru Usman and Yuriv Masvidal. I'm not going to lie, I've really loved watching both of them kind of walk around the hotels with their masks on. It makes them both look like Bane from Batman, so it's really hyping me up for the fight. And you people know I'm not that big of a fight fan, so if I'm talking about this one, then it's probably a reason to watch it. There is other fights. I don't really care about them. Rado has a breakdown on Sports Talkline's website, which last time I checked, I don't know if it was down, but should be back up. I know our guys are pretty good about that. But you can check out, his breakdown of it, the odds, who's going to win, who he thinks is going to win on our Sports Talkline website there. So we have some news out of the PGA as well, as congratulations. I talked about him last week, Bryson DeChambeau. He won the Rocket Mortgage Classic, and maybe this whole thing of just packing on the food and carbo loading will catch on. I mean, chances are it won't, but yeah. I don't know if you've heard like the amount of food that he's consuming or what he's consuming. It's basically my body mass. Well, I give or take 150 pounds in food a day, like 7 protein shakes. It's a list. You're gonna have to have some time to actually read it. So like, make sure you don't try and do it like this. I'll just glance at it. No, you have to look down. There's a lot of stuff. It's ridiculous. The Workday Charity Open is currently underway this weekend, and Colin Morikawa from the United States sits atop of a leaderboard. Last time I checked, which was before the show started, about 40 minutes ago, so he could be even farther ahead, or he could be a little bit more behind. But he was sitting at 8 under. Canadian Adam Hadwin wasn't too far back at 6 under, and Nick Taylor, also Canadian, at 5 under. There actually was, again, last time I checked, not going to bring up my phone because I was ripped for that last time for doing stuff on my phone. You can show together, shouldn't be texting your guests or looking at stuff on show. Get the stats, get them all on there. Don't Google them. So there was 6 Canadians in the top 50. Including Mackenzie Hughes, who had a great round a couple weeks ago. So it was supposed to have fans back for the PGA tournament starting next week. And also Tiger Woods was going to be back next week. But Tiger Woods will be back, but it doesn't look like we're going to have fans back. So I was really excited to be joined by Justin Dunk. Like I said, get everybody, more myself, caught up with the CFL things in Canada. Like I mentioned to him, I would have liked to have been talking about it more. I have some good CFL guests that I have lined up to give you guys some great stories, kind of break things down from the CFL point of view and that aspect. So we're going to keep things in Canada because the Vancouver Whitecaps, as mentioned, they're down in the bubble. They're trying to stay as safe as possible. Despite Nashville dropping out of the tournament, it sounds as though the cases were caught outside the bubble, which is good news for the other team in the tournament, that it's going to keep going. Like I said, we've already had the 2 games. We have one scheduled for later this evening between the Montreal Impact and the New England Revolution. So check that out if you got some time. So Vancouver Whitecaps actually held media availability. About 2 hours ago here, 3 hours ago now, and they had CEO and sporting director Axel Schuster and goalkeeper Maxime Crepeau available for the media. So I'm going to get you caught up with a bit of that from today. You can check out, obviously, the full availability on the Vancouver Whitecaps social media sites and all of that stuff. Both Axel and Max were on for about 15 minutes each, taking various questions from different media members. But we're just going to bring you some of it here. So Lee, let's just see if we can cue that up right now. As I am running a little bit ahead of my show, but that's fine. So he might not be ready for me, but he's really good. So like I said, I can't talk other sports because track and field is supposed to be back. We're having the I'm supposed to have the what's it called? And I don't want to pronounce it. I don't want to pronounce it wrong, but we're supposed to have kind of things kicking off right now in regards to track and field, and it's going to get going more in July. Getting people back training for Canada Athletics, which is really good. Hoping to get some Canada Athletics athletes on the show in the next couple of weeks. I do have some great guests lined up already for the future that have confirmed, but like I said, I really try and swing for the fences with a lot of my guests. So the ones that say, hey, we can do it sometime, I just kind of, I'm holding on for that time that they can jump on it and do it. So I do have some big names. We're going to talk basketball here in the coming weeks with a couple of my guests. Again, obviously the Vancouver Whitecaps are down in Orlando. So I will be bringing you tons of coverage from the games. My show obviously is on every Thursday. So that will be the day after the Whitecaps play their first game against San Jose Earthquake. So I will definitely have highlights, breakdown, hopefully talk to some players, maybe have a player on the show from the game, maybe have a coach on the show. So that's what I'm hoping to do in the next coming weeks here. And definitely going to try and keep you up to date with just what's happening too in regards to just the whole bubble and what's happening with all the other teams too in Orlando, because it's was a little bit scary there in regards to so many teams catching it. It has been confirmed too that Columbus did have a confirmed case. But it looks like everything's confined, and it looks like the tournament's going to go on. So that's really good to hear. Want to talk a little bit more about the Vancouver Canucks right now while we try and figure out this little glitch, because apparently I didn't send it to him in the right spot. So hopefully we can find this. But if not, then oh well. And I can just break down too what really happened in the interviews because I was there. So that is another possibility if we can't get the interviews going here. So yeah, like I said, I want to switch to the Vancouver Canucks and just kind of talk about the team awards. That unsung hero award. Oh, JT Miller. Wow, that's stirring things up on Twitter. And it seems like everything that is done in the Vancouver Whitecaps, or they name this or something does that, it just stirs up the Vancouver Twitter. I love it. It provides me with a lot of comic relief sometimes. I do have to turn it off a lot of the times. I can't stand it, but for the most part, Canucks Twitter is great. I think that they got the whole Markstrom MVP thing right. I know there's going to be a lot of people who don't agree with me on this one. There is going to be a lot of people that do agree with me on this one. I think even despite his injuries to end the season, if you look at his body of work and just what he did for the Canucks, so many times I put out Jacob. I think this is what you need to do. Look back at your Twitter and or your social media, or just even think about how many times you gave Jacob Markstrom an appreciation post, or just were like, thank you, Jacob Markstrom. Thank you. And how many times you did it for Elias Pettersson. Because, I mean, I tell you, I did it for him. I did it for Pettersson lots. But the copious amounts that I did it for Jacob Markstrom, it seemed day after day. And, like, even multiple times a game, I was like, oh, thank you, Jacob Markstrom. Thank you for being a Vancouver Canuck. So, no, I was quite happy that he won MVP for the Vancouver Canucks. The other words, like I said, the defenseman Quinn Hughes, that was kind of a given there. So, didn't talk any NBA news yet. That's because we don't really have any. Teams are down training for the most part in their training facilities that they're choosing. The Toronto Raptors are down in Florida, and they're going to head to the Orlando Center just with everybody else in a couple of days, and they'll do testing and quarantine for, I think, 72 hours before they'll be allowed to start training again, as Josh Lewinberg from TSN was reporting. So that will be nice to get basketball back for the NBA, back up and going. It's been a while for that. I think they were saying yesterday for MLS, it's been 144 days. So you got to imagine it's been close. It's going to be more than that. We're going to be like the 160-day mark. So, we do got it. He got it here. No, he's finally found what stupid spot I sent it to. But that was perfect because unlike last week where I did not plan, I thought I had the perfect show, so I did not plan for any mistakes. This week, I actually did plan for mistakes and having to go a little bit long. So we are going to show the first 10 minutes of it. And this is kind of where Axel Schuster talks about Nashville getting out of the tournament and kind of talks with the MLS League about what's happening moving forward. And then we get into some questions from everybody else. So Lee's got this here, so we'll cue this up whenever he's ready. And you guys can get caught up with what's happening down with the Vancouver Whitecaps in the
League
wide
Soccer
world
announced
of
on
Disney.
Thursday today, earlier today, Major League Soccer announced
they can do with the tournament format to keep that alive. And the second thing was that everybody was very, very open and very helpful, because some teams now have a schedule that is not as good as it was before, even if they were not involved in the whole process, because there were teams that will not play Nashville in Group A. They have a different opponent, and they have a new schedule with less rest days between the games. All sporting directors of all teams were on the same page. The most important thing is to get a good setup in this tournament, to find a good solution that the tournament itself is still a good format, and that all teams have 3 games in the group stage. And I think we found that. For us, it means what we already knew, that our first game is still on the 15th against San Jose. And that's the only game we prepare right now, because the only game we can win right now. For us, it worked out very well, because at the end we played Chicago as the last game, and we have a lot of time to prepare for the new opponent that we now got into our group. And very last sentence at the beginning of that, I want to say a big thank you to Chicago, because yes, we have to now prepare for a new team, and have to now to go into records and in scouting reports about Chicago, but Chicago has to do that with 3 teams. So I have really to say thank you to this team, because I think it's the biggest change for them in preparation to the tournament.
Thanks, Axel. Okay, well, let's get going here. JJ has first question. Go ahead, JJ.
Guten Morgen, Herr Schuster.
Hello.
2 questions. First one, do you know the fate of Nashville and Dallas when it comes to regular season points? If the league has come to any sort of agreement with that? And the other question is, how are you feeling in the bubble, knowing that the Nashville and Dallas, it appears that most of their cases have come from their home markets and not inside the bubble?
So regarding first question, that was also a point on the Zoom call with all sporting directors, and there was a point where we said we should now find a good solution for the tournament, and then we have to look at into that, how we manage the post-tournament season, and how we get that equalized again, and how we get a ranking, and how we get that schedule done. So I heard that the league is working on that since a few weeks, and they will now readjust that. And there is a plan to still announce the schedule for post-tournament during this tournament at one point. So maybe that is a little bit postponed because of that. But I think if we keep this sense and this cooperation between clubs, we can find a solution for everything. Regarding your second question, I have to say we feel really good right now, because these 2 teams brought positive cases in from outside, but they were isolated early enough and were following the rules here, so that right now, as far as it still is the same situation than on my last update, we have only 1 player here that is positive and isolated since more than 7 days, and it didn't spread into his team. So if we come through a few more days, I would say then the bubble is closed and safe. And then again, what I always said, if you do not misbehave and if everybody follows the rules, we should not see any more positive cases here.
Just to follow up here, which player are you referring to? Is that someone on Vancouver or a different squad?
No. Not one player from Vancouver, but I thought that there was some message about a player last week. I don't even know if it is confirmed. So the point is that there was no positive new case since 1 week in any other team than Nashville and Dallas, and these 2 teams are now isolated and not any longer part of the bubble.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, Axel.
Okay, Joshua.
Hi, Axel. just wanted to ask you, you mentioned on Tuesday about the testing. I just wanted to know if the teams had any further testing, and if you could just talk a little bit more about the safety protocols on the 10th floor there, and then just in MLS in general.
Yeah, we had a new testing today, and we will get tested. So the protocol about testing is very easy. We got 2 testings in the first 24 hours, and now we get tested every second day. And additionally, if that do not fit with every second day, the day before our game. So then we maybe have an additional test. The protocols itself are that every floor is isolated. Nobody is allowed to enter a floor of another team. So the other thing is everybody has to wear a mask at every single place. There are only 2 exceptions. That is your own room, and that's the pitch for the players on the pitch. And we have to keep social distancing. We have sanitizers all over the place. So I think that's the main rules that everybody has to respect. We created some of our own rules, for example, to make the entrance to our floor more safe. So everybody has to hand sanitize before he enters our floor. It's only one issue to take care that nobody has it somehow at one place from the elevator or wherever and brings us onto our floor. But I think that are the main rules you all know also from everywhere. And yes, if it is like that, what I said before, that we don't have any more positive cases, that should mean if we keep wearing a mask and keep staying distanced, there is a very good chance not to get it at any time in the next few weeks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Har.
Hi, Axel. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us today. I'm just wondering what your opinion and what your thoughts are on the first 2 games that we've seen play. Obviously, we've all been waiting a while to see the return of Major League Soccer, and seeing the game last night and this morning. Just your reaction on the gameplay and finally seeing those 4 teams in action. Thank you.
So first of all, I have to be honest. We were not able to see a lot of the game yesterday because we had our training slot at 9:30, and so we had to leave here at 9 o'clock. So you can imagine that we were only able to see 25 minutes. So I saw a summary, and I think it's the same with all teams. Without exhibition games, with coming out of the pandemic and a very special situation, it's also for every team first a moment of coming back onto the pitch, of coming back into the situation, to be stressed, to be in a competition, to have opponent there. It needs a little bit of time of adjustment to that again, and you see that. But there's another thing I want to mention. We made our test today and went out at 9 o'clock in the morning here. I think if we look at the 9 o'clock morning games, 6 o'clock in British Columbia, we also have to keep in our mind that it's really, really hot and way high humidity. So I think you cannot compare maybe every single detail in the game in the morning slot to the games in the evening spot where we play, because I have to say, we trained. We had now 2 times training at 9:30, and the climate is very, very nice. So it's good for training. So I think if we play at 10:30, there is no issue with temperature or with oh no, I forgot the word with humidity. And it's totally different in the morning. So I really have to give credit to the teams that play in the morning, and we will also play game in the morning, that we have to have a little different view onto these games.
Thanks, Tar. Okay, JJ up next. And just before, I think JJ, this has been sent to you already, but just further to that previous positive test comment, that was a week ago from Columbus putting out that one of their players had tested and they've isolated him. So he's been isolated for a week. So we can find that. You can find it on the MLS website if you're interested in more information. Go ahead, JJ.
Hey, Axel. This is actually not non-COVID question. The previous game before you play the Fire, you play at 7:30, and then 3.5 days later you're playing at 6 a.m. Pacific time. What is the science that you guys will have to utilize to get your guys prepared for that game, since it's going to be such a drastic departure from your previous routine?
Yeah, that was something we directly had in our mind. The two things: the thing that we played 2 games in the ideal spot regarding temperature and humidity, and then the point that it changed from a late evening game to an early morning game. But it's something, again, I said it's also a little bit, this tournament will also be a little bit of the survivors of the strongest, or those who find better solutions, are more creative to adjust to things. So we started to discuss that, but the good thing is that it is our last game, and it is between the 19th and the 23rd. So we have still more than a week or by far more than a week to plan that and to make our thoughts. Right now, we are really focused on the San Jose game, and in the background of that, we are thinking about. We will also speak with some players. What is the best to get that done? But we are not speaking about changing in one day. So I learned something with a lot of travels I did with teams in time changes and time zones, that you can very well adjust to 1 hour time change a day. So we have 4 days. So I think we should get that done.
All right. Now that you've been there for 3 days and gotten into a bit of a routine, what has the team done to sort of stay entertained and engaged, or has it been strictly practice, eat, sleep, practice, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, okay. First of all, we are here to work. So entertainment is not our first issue here, but we built 2 lounges here, one for the players and one for the staff. So I saw some players hanging in the lounge and playing cards. Some guys told me that they brought some books here. So you are free to go out. There is space to go out. There's a walking area or a course of 1 mile. So there are some outdoor activities you can do, and so I think it's a lot you can do here, and but we are not making recommendations because every person is different. So some players like to rest a lot, some players like to get up early, some players like to sleep a little bit longer, and keeping the British Columbia time zone right now. So right now the only thing we do, we stay connected with our players and ask them what we can do, and if they need something, what we can help with. And I have a pretty good feeling that everybody is right now is in a good mood, good mindset, and we had not a moment of oh, now I only don't know the German word, of getting mad in this environment.
Okay, thanks, JJ. One more with Josh, and then we'll let you go, Axel, and set up with Max Crepeau. So go ahead, Josh.
Axel, I was just wondering if you could touch on some of the initiatives the Whitecaps are doing for the families of the players that are going back here in Vancouver.
So more or less, that what we've done is we have 3 contact persons there. So all of them are connected with the families. The players know that or have the numbers. So we try to give every support they need. And there again, we have a lot of different situations. So we have some single players. There is no family member in the town. We have players. There's only a girlfriend or wife in the town that is living in this town for years and has contacts. And we have players that are pretty new in the town or have small kids, and we help them. We have arranged a Spanish English speaking guy to help our Spanish speaking group and the family members of them. We have 2 additional guys. We help with whatever they need. So if somebody needs a driver, if somebody needs somebody who helps with grocery stores, or if somebody needs help maybe from the medical side. So our team doctor is also still in Vancouver. So I think we take care whenever they need help, but we let them go if they feel that they have everything under control.
Thanks, Axel. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Axel, thank you very much for your time and availability. We'll let you get back to it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Max Crepeau up next.
This is the end of his interview. Yeah, coming up here. So as soon as it ends for him, you can bring me back. Just let me know when I'm coming back. All right. So I'm glad I can bring you that little bit of media tidbit from Axel Schuster. Was going to give you some from Maxime Crepeau as well, but for that, I guess you're going to have to just go to the Vancouver Whitecaps social medias and find it there yourselves. So, I was really happy that I was able to touch on the Canadian Football League today, give you guys an update on what's happening there with Justin Dunk on the show. I've been a big fan of Justin Dunk. I've seen lots on Tim and Sid, and obviously been following his work for the CFL for lots of years. So was pretty great to get to talk to him today. And I know it's pretty important for some of my Canadian viewers and Canadian listeners that I definitely touch on some of those things and bring you guys those guests. So like I said earlier, there's lots of sports happening. The MLS game tonight, that's going on. We got big fights this weekend. My PVR is really going to get a workout. So check out sportstalkline.com for all the latest sports news. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter. Like and subscribe to the Sports Talk Line YouTube here. You can't subscribe to my Twitter. I mean, maybe you can. I don't know. I don't know Twitter that well. Hit the notification button. Subscribe to our Patreon if that's something you do. I don't even know if we have any content on our Patreon, but subscribe to it anyway. Thanks again for joining me on the Unnamed Sports Show for the Sports Talk Line Network. I have been Joshua Griffith, and remember to love sports, all sports.